Mm. Yeah, yeah, I know from like watching like the Nostalgia Critic with Doug Walker, like he doesn't like Gurgi that much, but like he's kind of a character that kind of grows on you, and I kind of feel like they got to watch his whole arc.
Yeah, I mean he's I don't remember the movie very well, but he's devoted, he's loyal. I mean, in terms of the writing, he's a really fun character that I thought added a lot of spice and color to the cast. And yeah, I mean, if the voice isn't your thing, it's not your thing. But I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was I found it very endearing and even adorable at times. He's just a silly, silly little creature.
Yeah. Um. So for those of you at home just tuning in and listening and watching the podcast, we're here with therapist and voice actor Will Haddad.
Hey, Drew. So glad to be here. So great to see you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. I'll just quickly sing the theme song. Into the next life with Drew and me and Will Haddad. So Will is also a accomplished writer and he does a podcast. So Will, you said you published two books?
Published, not yet, hoping to. Well, the first one is technically published. It's a novelization. It's fan fiction. I'm not gonna be be pretentious about it. But it was the first full-length novel I ever wrote, which felt really good to do. But if you want to read that one, it's a crossover novelization of the Mass Effect video game franchise and the animated motion picture Titan AE, cult favorite. If you know, you know, as they're saying nowadays. So that's on Archive of Our Own. If you just want to type in Mass Effect After Earth, you can read it on there. But I'm not a formally published author yet. But we're getting there. We're shooting for the stars.
Okay. That's great. And I feel like video game adaptions are like something that I feel like are kind of in vogue now and like really kind of giving like people a chance to interact with like something they've done before. Like you have like you're starting with kind of a baseline to go off of, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, well, it's not unheard of. I think a lot of authors begin by imitating and copying works that inspired them. I know that there's a couple of authors Disney employs to do their Star Wars novelizations who themselves got their start writing fan fiction, Star Wars fan fiction, and that was how they got noticed. Um, and for me, it was helpful just to work within the bounds of a world that was already familiar and beloved for that story I wanted to tell, and it definitely gave me the confidence as a writer to then try to branch out, which is what I've been doing with subsequent manuscripts that I'm currently drafting. So, for instance, the second story I wrote was about mythology and about the worlds of Greek and Norse and Egyptian lore, which is a much broader area of
Oh,
terrain to
that's so
cover.
awesome. Um, yeah, like I feel like I've started a few scripts about Greek mythology and then I just kind of stop. Like I feel like if you have anything about Athena or Ariadne, it's like really cool. And like I've looked up like books about Ariadne and stuff like that, and like she seems like a pretty prominent character, but I feel like more could be done with the character. Like I would love like more film adaptations or shows just about that character.
Yeah, I would too. Ariadne, I believe I want to say there's been at least one book that's an alternate retelling of like the story of Theseus from her perspective, but I could be making that up, so don't quote me on that. Um, but her. her story is an interesting one because she's a character who's very much caught in the middle of great events and forces and power players that are coming on the scene with the events of her story. And she's just sort of having to, kind of figure out how to survive and go along with it. Because you've got Theseus coming in to, slay the Minotaur to try to get um, get some peace of mind for his father, Aegeus, across the sea. But then you've got Ariadne dealing with her own father, King Minos, who's very very tyrannical, very very firm. And some versions of the story he's very cruel and oppressive. And then Ariadne's own her own story, traditionally it's portrayed as a love story where she falls in love with Theseus and enlists the help of Daedalus, the palace architect, to help him find his way through the labyrinth. But then he she you know she ends up leaving with him. And there's a lot of there's a lot of, I think, emotional trauma and emotional just impact that sort of gets overlooked in Ariadne's own story, with the fact that she makes that decision to give all that up. There's echoes or foreshadowing, if you will, of Helen and the Trojan War.
Hmm.
I think on
Yeah.
some level there too. But it's also the question of, what motivates her to make these decisions, to go to the point where she's willing to turn her back on her homeland to help this stranger. So you've got a lot to play with, I think, in terms of adaptations.
Yeah, I think that's really like a poignant point, and I feel like kind of as we were saying, like the Ariadne story is a story that it's getting explored, but it's obviously not as like written or mainstream as like Helen. So like you have like a story that's like pretty well defined in Helen. Though the cool thing about Helen is it's really open to interpretation though. So
Oh yeah, there's a,
um
there's a quote I love in the novel Helen of Troy by Margaret George that reads, "Within Helen there could be many Helens."
oh nice. So it could kind of more be like an extended metaphor for the way women were treated then or
I think in a
their
way,
own stories.
Helen, yeah, that's a really great point actually, because I think in a way Helen is, if we're going to look at the original source material of the Iliad, Helen is that she's an amalgamation of I think several women, many many women representative of the culture, not of Troy, but of Mycenae, of where the uh where the Greek forces came from. Because she represents both. She can, I mean, there's endless metaphors we can come up with, but she represents, just for a start, both the both what was lost, kind of what the I think the Greeks viewed the Trojans as having given them cause to want to make war in the first place. She represents something that was taken, that was wounded and hurt on the Greek side by the Trojans, but she also represents the the woman who was lost in the middle of the chaos, kind of like Ariadne, was victim to both sides in a way, and was just trying to do the best she could to survive in a world where women had very little autonomy culturally.
Yeah. For sure. Like yeah, I feel like sometimes like Greek mythology, you think like Hercules and you think about gods and like these like really strong figures and like it's very masculine, but definitely beneath the surface, I feel like there's some really good more themes about like the female condition and things like that.
If you want to
Yeah, it's
read a
there.
great book, if you want to read a great book that's a wonderful feminist retelling, I'd recommend Circe by Madeline Miller.
Yeah, I have that book, and I got to meet Madeline Miller.
You what? Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
She did a book signing at my local bookstore, and I got to meet her.
Oh, that is so
And
cool.
she's very nice because she she tutors at in like Haverford, which is like kind of close to my area. So yeah, she's a tutor, and I started reading Song of Achilles, and Song of Achilles is beautiful. It
Mm,
is
hmm.
very lush writing. You can get into it. Like she paints such clear pictures of like what's going on. Like I feel like I can just dive in and get lost in the writing. It's so good.
It is. It is. Song of Achilles is beautiful. I mean, it is. It reads like a song in parts of it. The vivid descriptions of the landscape, and I found were really striking. There's a visceral element to the way the world kind of comes to life, as well as the characters, that I think was one of that book's strongest suits.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I had an easier time connecting to like the world and the characters in Song of Achilles than in Circe. Like in Circe, I just kind of felt stuck, but I don't think I gave it enough of a chance. Like, yeah, I just got through the first few chapters. I didn't read the whole thing, so yeah, I'd imagine that character probably has a very compelling story.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would encourage you to stick with Circe if you can. I thought it was actually better than Song of Achilles when I'd finished. Just because Cersei's struggle to me seemed a little, just the odds were stacked against her a little more, I felt. Or maybe it was because she was a character who I didn't know as well, or Patroclus when I was reading of Achilles, because everybody knows Achilles' story and everybody knows of Patroclus, or you know, at least his connection to Achilles. But Cersei, what I love about Miller's take on her is that she just does such a beautiful job of humanizing a character who we know only a very, very narrow perspective on in the source material she's portrayed in with the Odyssey. And um and Miller gives us this wonderful backstory that has layers and layers of meaning, with the war between the Olympians and the Titans, with the implications of what does it mean to be a god versus a human, and on the nature of magic, which is different. She does this, she flushes this out so well, that magic is its own force, separate from the divine energies that the gods wield, and that it's something that really Circe is, and only a very select few others can ever comprehend. And it's what sets her apart from both gods and mortals, which I really liked.
Yeah, like she does kind of seem like that she is kind of an outlier. Like kind of really special. Yeah. Um yeah, I'll have to give it another read for sure. I think I still have it, and I think it's autographed. Like I think she signed it. So,
That's so cool, man. I love that you got to meet her. That's amazing.
yeah, and no, and like she's so nice, and like and and I feel like she's very down to earth and like very grounded. She said that it takes her a long time to write. She said she considers herself to be like a painfully slow writer, and that she really wants to get like the details right and everything, and it just like it takes her a long time to do it. But like she's a really talented writer.
She is, without question. I mean, she's one of my favorite writers for mythology, if in general. Uh, I love her work, and I can't wait to hear from her again, however long it takes.
Yeah. I think she has two kids, and like I know that like raising children like that obviously takes a lot of your time, and then she does like tutoring and teaching stuff. yeah, like she used to be a teacher, but I think she just tutors now.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I'd love one day to be able to reach out and have her on the podcast. I think that'd be great.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. Tell me when you do.
All right. Yeah. Let's see. So, Will, you told me you have your own podcast called um The Book on Therapy.
Therapy by the book. And yeah,
Therapy by the
yeah,
Book.
Therapy by the book. We just launched last month, and we was actually recording an episode for it earlier today before coming on with you. So it's been a day of
Awesome. Well, that's
podcasting.
great.
Yeah. So I host it with my friend and colleague Daniel Villanueva, wonderful therapist, very very cherished friend of mine, as co-host, and I also interview other therapists and clinical professionals on the show. And each episode, we take a look at a fictional character, usually from movies, but also from books or video games or any kind of literary media or world of fiction. And we ask the question, what would it be like if this character were to come into therapy? What would it be like working with them clinically? What would their diagnosis be? What would their mental health status be like? And we just have fun. We have a ball. We analyze, we overanalyze, we reflect, and um, we ask lots of interesting questions and answer them too.
Sounds great. For the first episode, did you pick the Joker from Batman, or is it he on the list somewhere?
Oh, he's definitely on the list. Yeah, I have a giant list that's like 150 entries, more or less, of characters who can be on the show. I have actually the Joker is such a complex character that I think we're gonna have to do multiple episodes on different iterations of the Joker. Like we have to have one for Heath Ledger's portrayal, we have to have another for Mark Hamill's animated, and then we have to do a third probably for Joaquin Phoenix's take on the character. Um, but we haven't gotten to him yet, but definitely Joker is coming up.
Okay. Um, yeah. So check out Will Haddad's podcast, Therapy by the Book.
Yeah, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just type it in, it should come right up. The first episode we did Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. We talked about her in the books. And I think the second episode we did Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars, which was a lot of fun.
Nice. Um, let's see. At least the way Hermione's portrayed in the movies, like in the first one, I'd say like she looks like she's on the autism spectrum.
We talked about her certainly being unusual in the sense that um she's very gifted. She has a lot her capacity for memorization, her capacity to be the best in her class, is obviously stands out really clear. But autism not necessarily. Because a lot, if you really have to break down her backstory to get at this. But what me and my guest, Amy Cousineau, realized for that episode was that it comes down to more about her cultural identity and status as a Muggle-born. She's someone who's coming into this wizarding world knowing almost nothing about it, having very few friends, being driven, being somebody who wants to succeed, wants to prove what they know, and it comes more from. I think we reasoned it was more to do with her uh, her desire to succeed, to excel, but also fit in, to show that even though I'm Muggle born and I don't have the status of being a pure blood and a respectable wizarding family, that I still have this. I still know what I'm doing here. In fact, I know what I'm doing so well that I'm going to be better than some of the high status wizards in my class too. And so it's a story of inner resilience, really, I think is Hermione's character makeup.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I didn't read all the books. I read like the first like three or so. I feel like she's like the know-it-all in the first few books, and like she's an outstanding student, and like obviously like her superior in intellect is like the highest among the students. But I feel like they kind of get away from that a little bit later, or just like different stuff ensues, but she always stays a very good problem solver and things like that. But I feel like they try to do romantic things with her or like stuff like that. But
Well, the movies, do deviate from the books a good deal, not just with Hermione, but with the portrayal of Ron and some of the other cast as well. No question. And I mean that's inevitable, because you have to cut stuff, you have to compress, um, uh, adapt, or turning a book into a movie. But in terms of Hermione in the books, I mean, the romance aspect is rooted in what we all go through at that age when we're teenagers and our hormones are kicking in and we're just trying to figure out what the heck is all these new sensations we're feeling in our ourselves and with the people around us. I think a lot of that is just is just the normal course of life, and we're seeing Hermione's own reaction to it. Um, and it's true that as the story progresses, the nature of how she has to face the problem she's confronted with is put to the test, and she doesn't always get it right. Um, but it's her. But I mean, that's what makes a good story, is you look at your heroes and you walk that path with them, and you see, okay, how are they gonna adapt this time? What are they gonna do to confront these new obstacles that life is now throwing at me? And that's what I love about a good story, is that it can teach us similar lessons for us to apply in our own lives that way.
yeah, yeah, I feel like there's definitely like a humanization of like they have magical powers, but the kids are humanized a really great deal, and I feel like that's why the books are so popular. It's why the characters because you feel like you can really connect. Like they're not like supernatural beings or something. Like they're kids that are just really special.
Yeah, exactly. It's a magical world, but it's human characters. My mom and I are always, talking about how much we love the portrayal of the Weasley family as just being so true to life with their communication and their interrelational dynamics as a family. How the siblings, bicker and interact with each other, and the parents all just feels very authentic.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like good friends of ours have said like their favorite books are the fifth and the sixth one. Let's see, I'm reading the last one right now, and that's good. I should get back into the sixth one. So, um, but yeah, the last one's pretty dark. It's pretty drab and kind of looming. Like, it's not as kind of light and kind of kind of sardonic as like the first few. Like the first few are kind of lighter and chipper, but also still have that biting wit.
Yeah, it's true. Though there's a lot that has changed, I think, by the time of the seventh book. The stakes are higher. Voldemort's back, and the Ministry has fallen. It's a very dark period for the wizarding world at that point. And I've seen this in other shows too. I think in some respects this is how a lot of coming of age adventure stories tend to go, is that because it mirrors on an emotionally abstract level a lot of what we experience with our own childhoods becoming adults, is that childhood is meant to be light. It's meant to be, flippant and cheerful for the most part, and dangerous sometimes, but also predictable and comforting in others. Uh, and it's because we're able to go through those easier times and build, hopefully, that inner resilience and understanding that we're then able to still stand strong in the face of the darker adversities of adulthood and world realities as we mature and we learn more and more obstacles come to face us as a result. And that really that's another thing I love about the series is that it shows that progression, gradually building and building over the course of each book. And the seventh is where it finally crescendos, and we get both, the darkest parts, but also the most triumphant parts for the protagonists.
Mm, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not too deep into the seventh book yet, but ye, yeah, yeah, I'll get there. So, that sounds good. Let's see, yeah. For talking about books, over the summer I read the book which turned into the movie of Princess Bride, and
Oh, there's a classic.
yeah, it's a good book. Have you read it? Well,
I haven't actually. I've seen the movie. I think I saw it with you guys actually when we
no,
were
okay.
yeah, I think it was sophomore or junior year. Loved it. Great film, but I haven't read the book. What's it like? Is it very different? Is it beat for beat the same?
Um, you do get kind of more into the world and like there's more about like Florin and Gilder and like the characters are kind of more in depth and like the torture scene with Wesley is more in depth and like
Hmm.
the Miracle Max stuff is a lot more in depth too. I thought the Miracle Max stuff in the book is really interesting. So there's definitely like a lot more details. It's still funny, but you do kind of feel like you're there and it does kind of create this old-timey world, like not too dissimilar from like what J.R.R. Tolkien did with like Lord of the Rings or something. Like you do feel like you're in like a different world and a different time.
Hmm.
Like obviously it doesn't have like the same or mythical creatures or like escapism as Lord of the Rings. Like there's a few mythical creatures, but not quite the same. But it's definitely like a good read and a compelling book for sure. Like I'd say William Goldman, who wrote um that book, like it's definitely one of my favorite books. And he wrote another one of my favorite books about screenwriting. It's like Screenwriter's Handbook by William Goldman. It's an excellent book. I've read it page to ending a few times. It includes a whole screenplay for Butch casting the Sundance Kid, which I think we also watched at McDaniel, I think.
I
Maybe.
think you did. I think I missed that particular dorm night, but I remember hearing you guys talking about it.
Okay.
Because you like that movie a lot, as I recall. That's a classic.
Yeah, and getting a chance to read the script, it's wonderful. Yeah, like um William Goldman, he also wrote Marathon Man, which got turned into a movie with Dustin Hoffman. So but I think Laurence Olivier's in that too. Um
Wow, great cast.
yeah.
So
But
would you say the book version of The Princess Bride was better than the movie?
the movie's so iconic. Like it has so many like good moments, and I think that Rob Reiner is a brilliant director. Like
He
I
is.
like in my mind, he's made like four of the best movies in cinema. Like in um A Few Good Gentlemen, like that's definitely up there. Stand By Me, also a
Oh,
great
that's a
one,
great movie. Yeah, I like Stand By Me.
and Princess Bride, and then Misery, which I wouldn't recommend if you don't like horror. Like I wouldn't say get into Misery, but it's still in kind of good humor, and he does have a light touch.
Yeah, I do need to watch Misery because I know what it's about. I know the plot of the short story it's based on, and I'm a huge fan of both the leading actors, James Caan and Kathy Bates. I mean, can't go wrong with either of those two. Um, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. And if it's Rob Reiner, I mean, yeah, you got only quality, I think, behind the camera.
Yeah, y- yeah, I agree. I think James Caan and Kathy Bates are two really good actors. I think Kathy Bates got the Academy Award for the movie. And like